over half a million people, right, asylum seekers in the last decade or so who've come to the UK.
But we can't take everybody. No, hang on. That's less
so if someone
than
is
almost
rejected,
every other EU
Polly,
country. That policy.
That is not the correct interpretation of the Convention of Law at Sea, 1982.
Word interpretation.
Well,
so there are different interpretations.
Yes. Well, all right. So we do it, and then the French can sue us. That's how it works.
All right.
Actually,
to apply for asylum,
we've already done more than our bit. It's clearly not a deterrent because 20,000 people have come since the Labour government won the election. And look, this is extraordinary. It's remarkable that in Germany it wasn't illegal.
No lawyer, no government minister, no civil servant has said I'm wrong. Reform MP Richard Tice's bold claim about pushing boats back to France left the panel stunned.
Legally, you've got to pick up and take back to France, which we're entitled to do under the United Nations 1982 Convention of the Law of Sea, to people smuggle to other nations outside the EU. But this will make no difference whatsoever. There is a silver bullet that will stop the boats. It's what we should have done under the previous government, but they didn't have the guts to do it. And what's interesting is I've been talking about this for over a year now. No lawyer, no government minister, no civil servant has said I'm wrong. And there's a reason for that, because I'm right.
Well,
and they're embarrassed.
Well, that's not true. I'll come back to that in a minute.
But is international law really on his side? As Tice squares off against Labour and a panel of experts, we uncover the shocking truth about UK's immigration crisis and the radical proposals to solve it. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. When it comes to the UK's immigration policy, Richard Tice isn't pulling any punches. He's taking aim at what he sees as an utterly ineffective deterrent strategy, and he's armed with a barrage of statistics that might make even the most ardent defenders of the current system squirm.
It's all very well Greece to Turkey, for example, who are quite clearly not close allies, but for the UK and France, close allies, to be pushing boats back.
But Karen, on your point, on Richard's point, I should say, that you didn't have the guts to do what Richard Tice and Reform UK is suggesting, and that's pushbacks.
I think pushbacks was something, is very antagonistic.
Let her finish.
I think, Richard, simple answers to this is not the solution. This is a very, very complicated situation. We need to stop people feeling the need to leave their home countries in the first.
The government has long touted its robust approach to illegal immigration, promising to make the UK an unattractive destination for those considering the perilous journey across the channel. But if we're to believe Tice, this so-called deterrent is about as effective as a chocolate teapot in a heat wave. Let's look at the numbers, shall we? Despite the government's tough talk, the flow of migrants crossing the channel hasn't just continued. It's surged. We're not talking about a trickle here, we're talking about a flood. And it's not just Tice making these claims. Immigration experts have been sounding the alarm for months, pointing out the glaring loopholes in the current policy that make it about as watertight as a colander. But why is this happening? Well, it's a perfect storm of factors. For one, the enforcement of these policies has been patchy at best. It's all well and good to talk tough, but if you don't have the resources or the will to back it up, you might as well be shouting into the wind. Then there's the issue of legal loopholes big enough to sail a dinghy through. Migrants and their traffickers are nothing if not resourceful, and they've been quick to exploit every weakness in the system. And let's not forget the international dimension. The UK might like to think it can solve this problem on its own, but the reality is far more complex. Without cooperation from France and other European countries, stemming the tide of illegal crossings is like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. But here's where Tice really drops the bombshell. According to him, since Labour's election victory, a staggering 20,000 people have made the crossing. 20,000. Let that sink in for a moment. It's a figure that's left the panel visibly shocked, and it's not hard to see why. If Tice's numbers are accurate, it's a damning indictment of not just the current policy, but of the entire approach to illegal immigration that's been championed by successive governments. As the panel reels from Tice's bombshell figures, he's about to drop another grenade into the debate. His proposal? Push the boats back to France. It's a controversial idea that's been floating around for years, but Tice claims he's found the legal backing to make it happen. The UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, he argues, gives the UK the right to take this drastic action. But is this maritime law masterstroke the solution to the Channel crisis, or is Tice sailing into dangerous legal waters? The Reform MP's confidence is palpable as he lays out his case. No lawyer, no government minister, no civil servant has said I'm wrong, Tice asserts, his tone dripping with self-assurance. And there's a reason for that. Because I'm right. It's a bold claim, one that seems to catch the panel off guard. After all, if Tice's interpretation of the law is correct, why hasn't it been implemented already? But the legal experts on the panel aren't buying it. They quickly counter, arguing that without France's consent, the UK's hands are tied. It's a stark reminder of the complex web of international agreements and obligations that govern these matters. The pushback policy, they warn, isn't just a matter of national sovereignty, it's a diplomatic minefield. As the debate heats up, it becomes clear that we're witnessing a clash, not just of personalities, but of fundamentally different approaches to the immigration crisis. On one side, we have Tice's no-nonsense, action-oriented stance. On the other, the panel's emphasis on the nuances of international law and the importance of diplomatic relations. But here's where things get really interesting. The panel drops a bombshell of their own. France has already given a firm nod to any proposals for pushbacks. It's a revelation that throws a significant spanner in the works of Tice's plan. After all, how can you implement a pushback policy if the country you're pushing back to won't play ball? This refusal from France highlights a crucial point that Tice seems to be overlooking: the importance of international cooperation in tackling illegal immigration. It's not just about what the UK wants or what UK law allows, it's about navigating the complex landscape of international relations where every action has potential ripple effects. The panel doesn't stop there. They warn that even if the UK were to go ahead with pushbacks without France's consent, it could open up a Pandora's box of legal challenges. There's a real risk, they argued, that such a policy could violate international obligations. It's a sobering reminder that in the world of international law, good intentions aren't always enough. The clash between Richard Tice and the panel on immigration policy has exposed deep-rooted tensions in the UK's approach to this complex issue. Public opinion remains divided, with many citizens expressing frustration over what they perceive as ineffective measures to address illegal immigration. The Labour Party in particular faces criticism for its approach, which some view as inadequate in the face of rising Channel crossings. The debate has highlighted the ongoing challenge of balancing strict border control with international obligations and humanitarian concerns. While Tice advocates for more robust measures, the panel's resistance underscores the complexities involved in implementing such policies. The mention of successful models from other countries, like Australia's offshore processing system, adds another layer to the discussion, raising questions about their feasibility and ethics in the UK context. As the debate concludes, it's clear that there are no easy solutions to the immigration conundrum. The need for innovative approaches that address both security concerns and international commitments remains paramount. Without significant policy changes, experts warn that the UK may continue to struggle with this issue, leaving both politicians and the public grappling with the consequences of inaction.